Hi. Christians sometimes come up with interesting reasons for their condemnation of certain activities. I heard one a while ago that interested me, and I thought I'd talk about it here. A Facebook friend, Perry Hall, shared the following public post. If nature declares the glory of God, then as part of nature, my nature is to declare the glory of God. Declaring the gender of my choice or my body my choice is not glorifying God because it is contrary to nature. Declare God and not self. I don't want to talk about the specific practices that Perry feels are condemned because they're unnatural, nor whether he's right in thinking they're unnatural. All I want to consider is Perry's claim. Perry was declaring that anything that goes against nature isn't glorifying to Yahweh and is thus sinful. But I don't believe Perry believes what he was saying, and here's why. I don't think Perry would take his argument to its fullest conclusion. Yes, it makes sense that if nature declares the glory of the God of the Bible and we are a part of nature, then we would declare Yahweh's glory. And yes, nature declares the glory of its creator if there is one. But how does nature do this? By being exactly what it is, nothing else. To be contrary to nature, we must go against what we are and what happens naturally. Perry seems to think any such action is sinful. But I'm confident that he would approve of many behaviors and acts that are contrary to nature. For instance, using birth control is contrary to nature. That would include taking a pill that disrupts the natural processes of the body. It would include the use of an IUD. It would even include using a condom because that too goes against nature. Tying one's tubes or having a vasectomy certainly goes against nature. And what about having a C-section? We call a regular birth natural childbirth for a reason. And once the baby is born, should it be fed formula created by humans? A baby was intended to be breastfed. It goes against nature to deliberately dry up that flow of milk and not use it for its intended purpose. It goes against nature to have an artificial heart, a valve made from a pig, or even a donated heart from another human. It goes against nature to put metals inside our hips or knees when ours wear out. It goes against nature to get breast implants. It goes against nature to be inoculated against diseases. Honestly, it goes against nature to pierce our ears or get tattoos. You know what else goes against nature? Circumcision. There is nothing natural about cutting off a piece of your penis. Yet Yahweh himself commanded that one. But more than all of what I've mentioned, miracles go against nature. Christians are against magic, but not miracles, although they're the exact same thing. Yes, even Mary's pregnancy with Jesus went against nature. Have you ever seen conjoined twins? I haven't, except in pictures or on TV, but it happens naturally. It's natural when a child is born without legs or arms or even a brain. Again, it happens in nature, so it's natural. We might not want these natural events to happen, but they aren't sinful. Yahweh just sometimes makes mistakes when he knits us together in the womb, I reckon. Perry, and perhaps others, seems to be confusing things that aren't what normally or generally happen with things that go against nature. They aren't the same. Just because something isn't what happens usually or most of the time, that doesn't mean it's not natural, nor does it mean that it's evil or sinful, if you will. What proves too much proves nothing at all. We've all heard that, right? Quoting Wikipedia, in philosophy, proving too much is a logical fallacy, which occurs when an argument reaches the desired conclusion in such a way as to make that conclusion only a special case or corollary consequence of a larger, obviously absurd conclusion. It is a fallacy because if the reasoning were valid, it would hold for the absurd conclusion. I guess the question is Perry willing to allow his conclusion to hold for the absurd conclusion? Or at least what he would consider absurd. Would he consider everything I've mentioned here to be sinful? I don't think so. His conclusion works for him, but only for the particular issues he wants it to work for example, homosexuality, transgenderism, and abortion. But his conclusion is wrong. Perry used the term contrary to nature. That expression occurs once in the New Testament. Let's see what it's talking about. Romans 11 discusses how the Jews were branches that were cut off from the so-called tree of union with Yahweh, but states that they could be grafted back into the tree. Gentiles can also be grafted into this tree. In verse 24 of Romans 11, we get to the contrary to nature part. For if you were cut out of that which is by nature a wild olive tree, and were grafted contrary to nature into a good olive tree, how much more will these, which are the natural branches, be grafted into their own olive tree? In other words, the Jewish Christians were cut out of wild Judaism and grafted into Christianity. It's contrary to nature to graft two trees together. All the hybrid trees and fruits and vegetables we have, well, we went against nature to produce them. And in this passage, Paul uses this unnatural process to explain that Gentiles can be grafted unnaturally into the Christian church, just as the Jews who had been cut off could be grafted back in. Again, it's not natural, it's contrary to nature. The Apostle Paul said so, but it's a good thing. Being contrary to nature is not a sin. I think I've made that crystal clear. Perry's argument that anything that is contrary to nature is sinful falls flat on its face. If he holds to his position, he has to say that it's sinful for him to be a Christian because he was grafted in. And we know from the illustrious Apostle Paul that this is indeed contrary to nature. It is contrary to nature for Perry Hall to be a Christian. If his thinking is right, Perry is living in sin. I've known Perry and his good wife for about 30 years online, as we've never met in person. And I find both Perry and his wife to be pleasant, intelligent, and fun people. But we can all be wrong. And I believe Perry is wrong here. I think he's using an invalid reason to condemn people who practice behaviors he considers to be evil. And as I said, Christians find interesting reasons to condemn certain acts and behaviors. But when you and I hear these reasons, we need to recognize them when they don't make sense, so that we don't get caught up in the confused thinking Christians sometimes exhibit. Thank you all. Bye.